Hey everyone, it's Fox from modelmaking.guru here, back with part 2 of our build of the Bandai 1/100 scale Master Grade Endless Waltz Wing Gundam. Been a bit long since the last one, and I've done quite a lot of work between videos. I've just had a super busy time at work and outside work. I've been squidging this in where I can. And I just haven't had time to film anything, so I've gone quite far, and I'll tell you what I've done so far. There's also been another couple of things that have caused me some problems. First and foremost, my trusty DeVilbiss Dagger airbrush, enormous close-up, is being a pain in the butt. It's spraying all splotching everywhere, so you still get a straight line. You get at first I thought it was the needle, and it might be, but I also think it's my little hearty compressor, which I think is kind of dying. Or at least I'm not sure. I mean, it's only a little cheapy one, but I'm going to have to start saving up for a new compressor. I think the problem with the DeVilbiss, although it's never had a problem before, I think my compressor might be dropping the pressure a bit, because it's never been good for putting out a lot of pressure anyway. It says up to 40 psi, but I don't believe that for a minute. And it's not variable, it's just on or off. I think the pressure's dropped, and the DeVilbiss needs a good blast of pressurized air, so I think it's just the pressure is too low for the DeVilbiss to work properly, and I think the needle's knackered anyway. So I started using my Spraycraft, my little cheap 80 quid Spraycraft, which I got from Hobbycraft instead, which is really good actually. I used to take the mickey out of it, but it's actually, you know, it's not a bad little airbrush, to be honest, these Spraycrafts. However, problem with this one was I was cleaning it out and took the crown cap off, and then thought I'll take the cap below that, the nozzle cap, off to give that a good clean, and it kind of snapped. Well, I took the crown cap off and I took the nozzle cap off, and then I couldn't get it back on again. It looks like something sheared, so that's kind of knackered now. So that caused me more delays. So then I got myself a little Iwata Neo. I don't know which Neo it is. It's a something, but I don't know. It's supposed to be designed for low pressure home compressors. It's upside down, I know. Only like 45 quid from emodels.co.uk, 40 or 50 quid or something. Pretty good, nice little airbrush. The only downside to it is, I mean, it works really well with my compressor, which is a low pressure compressor. It's got 2 cups. The only downside to it is there's no paint flow nozzle. It's basically, it's dual action, so you can push down for air and pull back to control the paint, but you can't throttle how much paint goes through. Like on the other airbrushes, you can say, I only want this as, I don't want, you know, you can limit where the trigger goes to. So, you know, on my other airbrushes, I can what I call the throttle, I can lock that the trigger will go this far back, not that far back, so it limits how much paint. This doesn't have that. It's only a 50 quid job, 40 quid job. So I've had to use that one. Which is, it works really well. I do actually quite like it. It's an absolute doddle to clean, but the lack of trigger lock has meant that I've not been able to get quite the finery on the lines that I would normally get. However, well, I have actually, tell a lie, I did that with the Spraycraft, but I've not been able to be as careful as I have been when I'm painting over. So I've had to, you know, put the pre-shading lines on, paint it over as best I can with more paint coming through, and in some places I've had to then go back and re-pre-shade it, just because there's more paint coming through, I can't control how much, and I've gone too far and got rid of the pre-shading line. So I've had to do a couple of bits of pre-shading more than once to take account for that. It's not the end of the world. So what have we done so far? This is most of the sub-assemblies, not all of them, there's still a few bits and bobs in the tray. Everything has been taken off the sprues, cleaned up, primed, pre-shaded, painted and chipped, and has now been given a coat of Pledge multi-surface wax. I think I've addressed this before, but it's a really good gloss varnish, and instead of paying like 10 to 11 quid for a little bottle of Model Making brand's gloss varnish, just go to your local supermarket and get a bottle of Pledge. It'll either be called Pledge multi-surface wax, Pledge multi-surface wax formerly known as Clear, Future, or there's about 3 other names, and the labels will be all different to what I've just shown you, because they change the name every 5 minutes. In the States it's Clear or Future, over here it's Clear, Future, Pledge multi-surface wax, or Pledge formerly known as. So good luck on that. Sometimes a lot of people end up having to go on eBay to buy them for silly amounts of money because they can't find it in the local supermarket. Just hunt around, you'll find it. So that's all been done. The gloss varnish is there ready for the decals, which will be the next step. Did the paint chipping as well, and I'll show you a quick squiz. As with the heavy arms, and I know it's reflecting the light quite badly, as with the heavy arms, you can see on here, well, let me start that sentence again with actual words and making sense. You can see here I've chipped it similar to heavy arms, very fine chipping. Basically that's all pre-shaded. The red part is primered in white, pre-shaded with Tamiya rubber black around all the lines, painted over with Tamiya flat red, with a little more paint put into the centre of panels to keep the pre-shading effect. And then the chipping is quite simply done with a hobby knife. Because I've used a white primer, and because the primer is tougher than the paint, I can very gently and quite easily scrape off, let me get closer for you, scrape off the paint. So yeah, if I'm really careful, I can scrape the paint off without scraping the primer. So what you're actually seeing is actually primer underneath the paint. There are a million different ways to do paint chipping, but on these Gunpla, because they're supposed to be like, 50, 60, 70 feet tall, I can't do a massive paint chip, because that would look like a paint chip the size of a car. So I've got two little tiny ones. Now you can use masking fluids, yeah, that's probable, but they're quite fiddly to put on in small areas. They're usually better on kits that have a bigger scale. I'll show you the wing as well. You can use chipping fluids like MIG's chipping fluids. I've never used those, so I will be doing soon. You see here the chipping on the wing, and you can see the gloss varnish there as well. But I find when it's doing something like this, where the figure is like, the figure is literally about this tall, the scale of it means that using a blade keeps it more in scale, and that it's actually a billion times easier than doing any other method, because you literally are just gently scraping the paint away, and that's it for your chipping effect. And I find with Gundam, with Gunpla this scale, it looks really, really good. And even on bigger scale models, if I was doing, say, a perfect grade or even one of the mega size ones, it would still look like tiny little chips. So it's a good way to put in tiny chips on models that are supposed to be of a huge thing. It's also a good way to put tiny chips on a model where you've also got other types of masking to do other kind of chipping effects. So I quite like that, and it's very fast and efficient. What else have we done? I've got the Buster gun, correctly known this time. Buster gun primed and ready. That's had the seams on the top filled and sanded. So that's primed and ready. The bit under the masking tape is the yellow bit, which I'm hoping all the paint doesn't come off when I take the tape off. Also hoping the masking has worked nicely to give me a straight line, otherwise there'll be some touch-up. And I hate touch-up. What else we got? I had to fill in the seam on the back of these puppies. These parts, they go on the foot, thusly, around the ankle. They're actually two separate pieces, the left side and the right side. And there's a big ass seam line right down the middle. That was filled and has been sanded, and now that's looking rather spanky, like one piece. And also the head. See if we can keep this in focus. Where's the camera? There it is. The head had a big nasty seam line right down the middle, because it was left side and right side. Thanks very much. Like I said in the last one on the heavy arms, this piece, the crown, was a piece that slotted over the top and covered up the seam. This one was just two sides, so I had to fill that as well. So that's all ready. The eyes are green, you just can't see them very well because it's really dark. And the purple, the camera at the top is just masking fluid, don't panic that it's purple. So yeah, that's come out alright, I'm quite happy with that. Still work to do on that though, it's not finished yet. One other thing I can show you. As I said in the last video, I'm not actually painting the frame on this. But what I am doing, because I don't want to risk damage to any of the joints, because it's such a posable model. What I am doing though is I'm painting some accent colours onto the legs. Keep this damn thing in focus, just so it looks a bit more interesting. Now it doesn't look as blue as this in real life, that's my camera, and it's only shiny and lumpy because it's got the gloss varnish on. Once this has been weathered and matte varnished, it won't look quite as brush painty as that. But that's just an example. The blue on the leg is actually more of a medium blue than this dark blue. It's not quite as extreme as the camera suggests. We also did a load of gunmetal bits. The inside of the shield there, for example, is a nice gunmetal colour. I decided to do some metallic shades. Quite like gunmetal. And the ammunition canisters I'm going to be doing as... I'll show you. Why don't I just show you? Much easier. We've got two parts. I've got to focus again now, haven't I? 1 second while I focus. Two parts of the ammunition canister. You've got the end piece, and you have the actual main body of it. That's just primer. This is gunmetal. I apologise for the wavy camera going on here. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to leave that gunmetal, but I'm then going to paint it over in rubber black and use some hairspray method to put some chipping on it. So it's black with some chips showing from underneath. And the white part is actually going to be gold. Spoke to the client and decided it'd be cool if I kind of carried on the trend with the heavy arms, where I had the gold and silver and black on the Gatling gun. On this one I'm going to have the black with metallic undertones and gold on the ammunition, the beam ammunition. So that is where we're up to. So I've got to paint the Buster rifle, start the decals, get all those done, then get everything gloss varnished again, put the last few bits together, do some weathering. I'm torn between doing oil paint weathering with the Starship fill for the panel lines, or just using Gundam markers. I don't know yet. I don't know. I don't want the white of the wings to go too dark, because I pre-shaded it. It's quite dark anyway. It's not a bright white, which is what I want because it matches the box art. But yeah, I don't want it to go too dark. Well, we'll see. We'll try a little bit and see what happens. But that's about it so far. So stay tuned for the next one. As I said, I've been mad busy, so I don't know when the next one will be. But I will keep you posted. I've not done any more on the Freedom Gundam build, if you're wondering where that is. That's the same problem. What free time I have had, I've devoted to this and not to the Freedom Gundam. Because the Freedom Gundam is for fun, and this one is a paid job. So, always go where the money is. One other thing. I have to show you. I have to show you, because you know I love these. You know I love these. Gundam feet. Woo! God, I love Gundam feet. They're so epic. I just love Gundam feet. So yeah, that's where we're up to. So stay tuned for the next one. Thank you very much for watching. I will try and get a Freedom Gundam done at some point. Another one of those. There was something else I was going to tell you. Oh, yes. Quite a few people have asked me about gunk washes. I will do a video in the coming few weeks. A very quick, this is how you do a gunk wash. But for the time being, all I will say is if you're doing a gunk wash, use oil paints. Don't use acrylics, don't use enamels, don't use anything else. Must be oil paints. And always gloss varnish first if you can. But I'll do a proper video on gunk washing. But that's going to do it. So, catch us next time. And we will see where we're up to. So as always, I will see you on the other side. Adios amoebas! Yay! I forgot the wavy hand. Ah.